And welcome back to Hannity, and this is a Fox News alert. Earlier today, North Korea test-fired a ballistic missile. According to the U.S. military, the missile was in the air for about 15 minutes, traveled about 25 miles, and once again, it failed. It broke up over the Korean peninsula, making it another huge failure. Earlier today, before this test, the Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, was at the UN calling for sanctions against North Korea. Watch this.
The threat of a North Korean nuclear attack on Seoul or Tokyo is real, and it is likely only a matter of time before North Korea develops the capability to strike the U.S. mainland.
And yesterday, during an interview with Reuters, the president said this.
There's a chance that we could end up having a major conflict with North Korea. Absolutely.
Joining us with reaction is the Deputy Assistant to the President, Dr. SEBASTIAN Gorka. Dr. Gorka, good to see you again. Let's talk about the President's comments. A good chance we could, in fact, have this conflict with North Korea. Your advice, especially, look, we know they have nuclear weapons. We know they don't have ICBM capability. They want it. That means they would reach the continental United States. But in the interim, they certainly can reach China and South Korea and Japan, a real, clear, present danger to that region of the world.
Sean, this is a rogue regime. It is a pariah. It is more Stalinist than Joseph Stalin's own Soviet Union. The NSC, the White House, is aware of what happened, and the president has been informed. As you stated, we are not surprised that the new test occurred, but nor are we surprised that it was a failure. Nevertheless, despite it being an embarrassing failure, the reality is it demonstrates intent. When you are looking at any potential threat, whether it's somebody who wants to commit murder or whether it's a nation that wants to go to war, you look at two things, Sean. You look at capability and you look at intent. North Korea has both capability and intent to destabilize, and you heard Secretary Tillerson, you've heard the statements of the president. We will not let this unfold into something that can harm our friends or Americans.
It can't, and it's more difficult, and we ought to learn this lesson as it relates to the Iranians and their pursuit of nuclear weapons. Now that they have nuclear weapons, and by the way, Bill Clinton assured us they'd never get them, and as he gave away $4 billion in taxpayer money, he assured us that wasn't going to happen. It happened. Capitulation doesn't work. It never will. But what's scary is now that they have nuclear weapons, it makes it militarily that much more difficult. What are the potential options to deal with a nuclear-armed North Korea and prevent them from getting ICBM capability, knowing that this, chubby despot might fire off a missile that could be blown up in the region?
You're completely correct. Capitulation never works. You never trust a dictator, whether it was Hitler in 1938 in Munich, whether it was the Soviets, whether it was Saddam Hussein, or whether it's this individual. So Reagan was right. You have to verify everything. What are our options? Well, this president understands better than almost anybody else why we have a huge range of options and what we can do to use them. We don't talk about our game plan, and we don't say, let's just have some kind of meeting in Geneva or in Vienna with our diplomats. That's how we got to the disastrous situation with the JCPOA and the Iran deal. Look at what's happened with the last failed test before this one. You don't necessarily have to go to full-out war. There are things we can do to undermine the regime. And don't forget, 80% of the economy, of the exports that go into North Korea come from China. And look what happened at Mar-a-Lago. Well, the president connected with Xi Jinping.
Well, that to me was the most underreported story. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding was the president was supposed to meet with the president of China at Mar-a-Lago for two separate sessions, maybe a half hour, 45 minutes each. They both went beyond 4 hours, is my understanding, and they got along famously. And it was during dessert that the president told the president of China that, in fact, he had launched 59 Tomahawk missiles as it relates to Syria and the use of chemical weapons. Then, when he goes back to China, he puts 175,000 troops on the border. And then he sent North Korean coal back and imported American coal. And we have a Chinese state-run tabloid, well known to be a mouthpiece of the communist regime in China. They actually go as far as to warn North Korea that another provocative move, this is before today, the Chinese society will be willing to see the UN Security Council adopt more restrictive measures that have never been seen before, such as restricting oil imports from the north. But, you know, Kim Jong-un is willing to do this anyway in spite of that China alliance with Trump. Is this guy just crazy, or is he just underestimating?
Look, the president is not a He's a results-driven businessman. He is he was successful, not just successful, he was incredibly successful in the hardest market in the world, New York real estate. As a result, he looks at the world as it is, and he's interested in results. And he knows some issues require kid gloves, because they're sensitive. But sometimes you have to make a fist inside that kid glove, and you have to use it. The Moab bomb, the 59 cruise missiles, they're not just about Afghanistan, they're not just about Syria. The premier in Beijing understood that, and he changed his stance. Even Vladimir Putin said, I'm not going to meet with your secretary, then he changed his mind. That's thanks to Donald J. Trump.
Dr. Gorka, we always appreciate you being on, by the way. I know the left is attacking you, too, but they're also attacking the president's wife, his daughter, and his 10-year-old son. So hang in there. I know. Oh, yeah, I got attacked, but I've been attacked for 30 years. I'm used to it. But I know you have his full support. Thank you for being with us tonight. We appreciate it.